when was the moment to say that now I need to come back to India? Because the world's your oyster, right? You've been working in McKinsey, you went to Harvard, post which you could easily continue, do much, much larger, bigger jobs in bigger places. Perhaps have the easiest access to say that, I might as well stay in one of the Western countries and do X, Y, Z there. But that mindset and that calling to say that, no, I need to come back. I need to build something here. A lot of it resonates out of 2-3 things, right? One is a lot in terms of family, how you're built, what family creates for you, what family pulls you on to, the feeling of coming and creating and giving back to your economy, to your society, to your mindset. What was the mindset to say, यार अब हो गया, देख लिया दुनिया, सबका पर्सपेक्टिव भी देख लिया, कुछ शायद बना भी लिया, कुछ शायद उखाड़ भी लिया, अब ना वापस देश में आके कुछ बनाते हैं. So take us through that mindset of a person who wants to come back to the country to actually add value. Does it go back to that, that initial impression of creating impact that was perpetually there in you? Or was it also a situation of maybe destiny, opportunity and vision coming together? Why India? What happened post-Harvard?
So after HBS, I actually got my dream job. My dream job was with Britspan, right? It was like a very, very selective, very coveted job out of HBS because it is actually an impact consulting entity. It's part of Bain.
Yeah.
And they only select, I think, three people from all of HBS for all their offices, right? And I was one of them. So it was like, and I was living in Boston, which is, I love that city. My husband at that point in time, I was newly married, Sandeep, he actually moved to Boston to be with me. He was at McKinsey.
You guys met at
McKinsey. So he moved
McKinsey's made a lot of
marriages happen. Yeah.
I know a whole bunch of my friends who like all met and
married.
Married in McKinsey.
So anyway, so he moved to Boston to be with me, and honestly, at that point in time, what was happening was while I was loving my job at Britspan and I was doing a lot of work in, like, I was all over, right? I was going to Canada, I was going to Africa, I was going to Australia, I was going everywhere, like, Europe for work. I was always reading up about what's happening at home. And home was that, right? Home was always India.
Yeah.
And what stayed in my mind was in all my conversations in HBS and also at Britspan, also what I was seeing around the world, right? And when I was going back to India, I was seeing this as well. I was seeing this very, very exciting, and I've said this many times, but this whole data, device, digital democracy, right? And I was like, this is very different. Like, ye kuch bada chal raha hai, right? I could feel it, like in my bones. And of course, the newspapers hadn't started talking about startups, what-ups, then the only publication was Shraddha's, right? Your story. Yeah. And I was reading that, and I was just seeing that something magical is happening back in India. Kuch to shuru ho raha hai. And I was like, how can I not be part of this? I have to be part of this, right? It's happening in my country, in my economy. It's something which was only going to happen once in a generation. I need to be part of it. And the second thing that kept me awake, honestly, was, I'd worked in healthcare at McKinsey, right? So I'd worked a lot in maternal and child healthcare. And the more I looked around, I said, there are no digital products, even globally, to solve for the whole problem that a woman faces when she's either expecting a baby or has a child at home. Right? And there's nothing that really, is a companion to her in a smart, personalized, relevant way and at scale using technology that can honestly be a game changer for nations. Like how mothers and children, their healthcare outcomes are actually nation outcomes, right? So that stayed with me. So one day I just woke up and I remember I booked my tickets actually back home and I told Sandeep, listen, we're going back to India. He's like, what? What just happened? I was like, yeah, we're going back to India. And he's like, wait, when? About 6 months, 5 months, 3 months. I'm like, 2 weeks from now. He's like, are you mad? What about our leaves? What about my job? I'm like, listen, we'll figure it out, right? We're going back. Now is the time to go back. And he was amazing. And he said, okay, now where do you want to go? I said, I don't know, where do you want to go? So we sat and we flipped a coin and we said, okay, between Bombay and Bangalore, the coin landed on Bombay. And we found ourselves in Bombay. Literally, this is the story.
That's insane.
It's insane. And I want to call out, right? It's also from a place of privilege because I had someone who was so incredibly supportive of this with me.
Yeah. And that matters.
And that matters, right? So someone who dared to dream as crazily as I did, and that's him. That's my husband, right? So we moved back to Bombay.
And he's a nice guy. I like him.
No,
he's quite a sane guy in the deals that I've dealt with.
Yeah,
and he's a good guy.
He's actually a very, very grounded guy,
very
Vinayak,
nice guy.
which I find very refreshing because, you're right. I think abhi entrepreneurial ecosystem mein bahut ye
एक हो गया है, हवा हो गया है.
हवा हो गया है. He is someone who's very grounded, right? And he has taught me a lot as well. And I have also taught him stuff, right? But what he's taught me is to like go back to the roots.
Yeah.
Be simple, be humble, be grateful.
Grateful, yeah.
So anyway, that's the story of coming back to India.
Why Bombay? Just because the coin fell here?
Literally that.
Okay.
So the other thing, by the way, why Bombay was, and why not Delhi? Because
Yeah.
Delhi, if you know, not just because the coin has two sides, but also not Delhi because I wanted to be in a place where I knew I'd be putting in crazy hours. I felt Bombay was a safer city for me to build out of.
Which has been the scene for a while.
100%, you know, Vinayak, you know this well, yeah?
I
I mean,
started my
early
career
days. Exactly,
started
early
my career
days,
in
like
Delhi.
3 a.m., 4 a.m., Kali Pili lekar, you know, ghar aao,
Yeah,
right? I mean, you
doesn't
can't
matter.
do that in any other city but
You
Bombay.
can't. You can't do that in any
So the
other
city's
city.
been kind to both of us, it looks like.